Today we are doing the silent tier list. We have 75 cards to put into a tier list. We haven't done this in 5 years or so, just a little under 5 years, I believe. A lot of cards are going to be in places that they were not in the past. Notably because no card's been changed in that time, just notably because I think the players in general have gotten better. And yeah, let's fucking go, shall we? This tier list is going to be weird because I don't think that I'm the greatest silent player. I think that I've got a pretty good grasp of how I do the silent, but I think that I'm by far not the best silent player. And I like to play the silent for fun because I think the silent has a lot of really fun tropes. Let's get into it and let's see where things have shaken up in recent past. All right, number 1 is accuracy. John, where do you think accuracy would go? Now, of course, this is not the same card that it actually is. This card has been buffed since this tier list was made many years ago. It is shivs deal 4 or 6 increased damage. Also, shiv cards were buffed since then. As you can see, Blade Dance is only 2 shivs back then. Accuracy is like... This is like my favorite card. I love accuracy, man. I get so baited into taking accuracy, I feel like half the time, and it's just not worth it. But I do love me an accuracy, regardless of whether or not I think that it's good. And I think this is about C tier. Like, I think that is something that you shouldn't take nearly as much as you do, but you do. One in the chat, if you feel like every single time that you get 3 accuracies and you have a bunch of shivs that you're like, what if I just took a 4th accuracy, though? And then it probably loses you the run. You probably shouldn't have even taken the 3rd one. You probably should have focused more on, like, getting more defensive options out. You probably died to that. Like, I think it's just a rabbit hole that we all go down. And I think that if we took accuracy just a little bit less, that we would probably all be better players for it. We're about to get into the string of A cards on the silent that are in fucking sane cards. Acrobatics, an S tier card. This card is fucking busted as hell, man. Busted as hell. Yeah, what are they, A cards? They're more like S tier cards. True. This card is busted as hell. Being able to draw as many cards as you do while also being able to discard is actually good. Like, there's no downside to the card. The silent not only has a lot of synergies with discard, but oftentimes you have a card that you want to discard so that you can make room to draw more. Right? Like, you can make room to draw more. You can get rid of a burn. You can get rid of a curse. You can do so many things with acrobatics. And most silent decks, because it's a common card, most winning silent decks will have multiple copies of this card if possible. This card is just that good. The silent, with being a card spam heavy character, likes to do that because it helps her fill up her hand and then can combo with so many different things like more draw or bullet time or all of the discard synergies or whatever. There's some cards that you want and some cards you don't want in your hand, like you don't want Wraith form at a time so you can get rid of it, etc. Can you ever have too many? Earlier on in the game, yes. I think as the later the game goes, it tends to be less and less so. I mean, obviously, there's too many for any card, but the worst time to take a lot of acrobatics is in Act 1. Because if you have nothing but strikes and defends, what the fuck is the point of playing an acrobatics if all you're going to draw with your acrobatics is more strikes and defends? You're not really going to be using your energy on those things. So, yeah. The worst time to take an acrobatics is now. The best time to take an acrobatics is next floor. Adrenaline is free, dude. Like, anytime that you see an adrenaline outside of the boss, you're just like insta-clicking it because it's just value. It's just free value. It's not the craziest amount of shit to do. It is just like a little bit. Like, it's a little bit of energy, a little bit of net positive card draw. It's just good. The only time that it's not super good is if you're up against like the Time Eater or maybe the Heart, but it's still pretty good there. It's a really good nightmare target. It's really good with everything the silent likes to do to just make more card spam. That's kind of the silent's objective, is to just card spam. When you have Snecko, even when you have Snecko, this card is still pretty good. I would say maybe it's not a must click, but it's still pretty good even with Snecko. Because 50% of the time, it's playable and it's unupgraded form at energy neutral, so it's draw positive, which is fine. And then if it's upgraded, then it's, even better. After Image. It's another fucking S tier card. I think After Image is one of those cards that, out of this, like, quadruple A card, is the only one that I could consider moving down to A tier. It's so good with so many things that the silent does. It is good. It is S tier on the silent, but I would say that it's not S tier outside of the silent, whereas these other two cards are. So it's kind of on the borderline for me, just because I feel like sometimes people are taking an after image when they aren't actually playing 1,000 cards a turn. If you're only playing like 3 cards a turn, 3 block a turn is not that crazy. And half the time you motherfuckers are taking it while you have like an Orichalcum or something, and then you're fucking yourself over. If you have Orichalcum and you're not playing more than 6 cards a turn, it is better to not have the after image, right? Like it is really good against the heart, obviously. And I think since the heart came out, it made it even stronger. How does he know that I do that? Because I do that, motherfucker. 3 block a turn is practically Metallicized, which is also a 1 cost, though. And guess what? Metallicized 1 isn't that good of a card. It's okay. It's pretty good, but it's not that good. And 2, this is a rare card, bud. So if a card is the same as a non-rare card, but it's a rare card, but After Image is still amazing. It's still an S tier card, okay? This is me just arguing with semantics here, but it is still an S tier card. Potentially an A tier card, depending on what your style is. Like, if you are going for, like, I want to play, on my turn, I want to play Crippling Clouds and Corpse Explosions and Bouncing Blast, yeah, After Image is not going to be your card. It's not going to be available in every single deck, but it's almost every single deck After Image will be accepted. But there is an argument of why it could be A tier for sure. But in my playstyle, in what I like to do on the Silent, I think that it is an S tier card. Alchemize! Potions are disgusting. This, honestly, I don't understand why this card is allowed to exist where it is. It is probably, arguably, the strongest card that the Silent has. I think that you can make an argument for Wraith form, but I think that also Alchemize needs to be considered for the strongest card that the Silent has. It is unbelievably strong. This card is so fucking good. It allows you to stay healthy. There are so many relics that synergize with potions. It allows you to have a win condition. It allows you to potentially stall out fights a lot to get the potion that you want. There's a lot of world where you get an entropic brew and you just get to continue to cycle more potions. You get to, you know, play burst with Alchemize. It's just because burst existence, it makes Alchemize even better. There's just so much value that you get out of every single combat. Sure, there's the potential that you get the string of bad combats that doesn't get you what you want, but it's insane. Genuine question. You said that the Silent is your least favorite character. Could you give a brief talk about why? Yeah, sure. I would say that I actually like the Silent more than the Watcher most of the time, just because I think that the Watcher is way too easy, quite boring in the sense that for content, right? People just tend to not like to watch Watcher content, so it lowers my opinion. But the main reason why I dislike the Silent is because of her early game. I think her early game is like really, really tough and boring because of the fact that she starts with so many cards. And then her 2 starter cards are also defensive. And where in the early game you want to be very aggressive, you struggle to do that on the Silent. And if you get like a bad draw on the Silent, like if you get a bad draw on the Ironclad, you're like almost just 1 turn away from cycling your draw pile. But on the Silent, you're like 1.5, 2 turns away from cycling your draw pile and getting back to like a better draw cycle if like you draw all of your attacks on a turn that the enemy's defending, or you draw your attacks on the turn that the enemy's doing the big attack like Jawworm, or you draw your defense on the turn the Jawworm's defending. So you just like get out of sync with the enemy. So that's why I tend to dislike Silent. I think Silent has one of the most satisfying late games for sure. Her early game is just so tedious to me. It's not even like that I feel like I'm solving a puzzle half the time. I like the feeling that sometimes you have to solve a puzzle. I think the Defect does that really well, where like the early game is like you're trying to solve a puzzle of taking some interesting things that might amount to a late game godliness while making your deck overall weaker, right? Like taking a defrag minus on the Defect early, it kind of makes your deck weaker in the short term. If you only have 1 lightning orb, but on floor 1 you see a defrag minus, you're probably going to click on it. But you're making yourself a little bit weaker in like terms of your fighting ability, because you're going to be wasting a draw on drawing a card that is worse than a strike or defend for the time being. But it's like solving a puzzle on how to get better into the late game. So yeah, it's just mainly the early game. Anyways, All Out Attack. This is a card that I find myself taking often in the early game because you need a card, right? It's a good source of AoE damage, but the later that the game goes, this card is fucking trash. You'll find yourself taking this card early in the game in order to just get through tri-sentries, in order to get through the slime fight, and that's fine. I think having its place there is really, really good. But later into the game, it becomes a curse where you don't even play this card unless it is the last card of your turn, and you're just like, yeah, and I've got it, so I'm gonna play it. So I think this card belongs in D tier for that fact. I think that it does not make it into C tier because you only take it because you have to early game. I think that you would almost always take a dagger spray over it, or like a crippling cloud or something like that. Like I'm almost always going to take the other AoE options. Maybe not a grand finale, but I'm going to look for other AoE options if I can find them. But the fact that it becomes worse as the game goes on is not something that a lot of cards do. Not a lot of cards get significantly worse as the game goes on. But the fact that it has random discard and you can never get rid of that random discard means that it becomes virtually unplayable later on in the game because you don't want to get rid of your good cards. Because not only does the Silent like to draw a lot of cards, and so then you're relying on this like massive RNG of discarding the card that you like, but this is one of the most powerful cards in the game. I'm going to give you a spoiler alert here. This is also an S tier card. And if you're playing with this card in your deck, which all of us should be, if you're seeing this card, this is like a must take in almost every single deck. Unless, obviously, you have Rune of Fear. This can just fuck over this. For 10 damage, that's not worth it, man. To discard your Wraith form that you might need next turn. To discard your bullet time that you might need next turn. But early on, it's fine. 1,000 cuts. I love this card, man. I love 1,000 cuts. I love 1,000. This is the problem with Silent, man. This is the problem. The Silent has so many fun things that just aren't that good. 1,000 cuts. Grand finale. Accuracy. Like, there's just some things that I love, but they're just not that good. I think that I have to put 1,000 cuts in D tier. And it's close. It's close to becoming C tier because I think that this card is quite good in a lot of decks. In a lot more decks than people probably even realize. But it's so hard to not only get off, like it's so hard to like get going because it costs 2 energy, and usually you're trying to get to your engine as fast as possible, so you're playing your draw cards that cost you energy, and then you come into 1,000 cuts, and then you play 1,000 cuts, and you're like, well, I can't do anything else this time. So I just played 2 mana, do nothing. And this was a rare card. And then, a lot of the times, it's 1,000 cuts, or would you rather have an Adrenaline, or would you rather have an After Image, right? And all 3 of these cards are really good with spammy, right? They're really good with the spammy style of the Silent, but which is clearly better with the spammy style of the Silent? A fucking Burst, right? A fucking, even like an Envenom, a Wraith Form, a Glass Knife, a Corpse Explosion, a Malaise, a Storm of Steel. Storm of Steel is not that great, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's all of these cards that they're going to be pit up against, that 1,000 Cuts is going to be pit up against at a boss fight that you're going to see the 1,000 cuts at. You're like very rarely going to a boss fight and going, you know what I need to see from this boss fight? I need to see 1,000 cuts. A lot of the times you'll be playing a very spammy Silent deck, right? You'll just be playing 100 cards, but you won't quite have the damage yet. And you'll come across an elite fight where the rare card percentage is higher. It'll drop into a shop and it'll be on sale. And you take the 1,000 cuts because you just need something now. And then your deck you then make your deck around that Silent or that 1,000 cuts, which I don't think makes it a terribly good card, but not a terribly bad card. But I think oftentimes we get baited into taking this card. And so that's why I want to put it in D tier, because I want people to think twice about taking 1,000 cuts. It's just a little bit slow, and you need to really consider whether or not your deck is able to do it. 1,000 Cuts in the board game is really hyped, though. It actually really is. If you haven't played the Slay the Spire board game, highly recommend. Chat, I need the spam right now. Backflip! Backflip goes in A tier to me. Backflip goes in A tier. It's just a really solid card. It's definitely the shrug it off for the Silent. It is just a card that, again, it's like Acrobatics. You end up taking a lot of these in a lot of your Silent decks. It does its job extremely well. I think it's slightly worse than Acrobatics, just because it draws less, and what you're really looking for out of this card is its draw power, less so than its block power, because it is just the same number on it as a defend. It's good. It's solid. We all know it. It feels good to have a couple of backflips in the deck. But the main reason why it's also not as good as Acrobatics is because it doesn't synergize with discard. And I think that although the Silent does have a couple of ways to scale her ability to block, I think that obviously discard is a better synergy than having actual block on the card. It's weird how that works. But this card is not good early. A is a bit too high. This card is way better early than Acrobatics is. And Acrobatics deserves to be S tier in my opinion. I think After Image isn't good early. But would you call that a terrible card? I don't think Adrenaline is that good in the early game. But would you call this a terrible card? That's kind of the name of the game on Silent, is a lot of her very powerful cards just aren't that good early game. Which is like why she's a very hard puzzle to solve. Backstab, I think, is like the definition of a B tier attack. This card is actually really, really good, and especially because the Silent comes with her innate ability to draw a lot of cards on turn 1. Chat's immediately in agreement that they agree this is a B tier card. I love taking a backflip early. I really do. It just helps you burst out, like, whenever you get into the hard Act 1 fights where you get, like, the small enemy and the big enemy. It just helps you burst down the smaller enemy, or it can be a good combo against the birds in Act 2. It can help you burst down the cultist when you're fighting the cultist and the chosen in Act 2. There's just so many places where this is just, it's solid. It's good. Bane. Chat, where do you think Bane should go? I'm curious where you guys will put Bane. Because there's this notion in Slay the Spire, there's these things called strike pluses, right? Early on in the game, you tend to just take strike pluses. And Bane is an example of that. I think a better example that everybody would know is Quick Slash and Dagger Throw. They're just strike pluses. They're a strike, just a little bit more of a strike damage, and then they do like something else. They do just like a little bit more, right? Just get you through the early game, bursts down somebody like Gremlin Knob or Lagavulin. It helps you race the damage race. A Poison Stab is another good example. Even like you could say a Slice. Again, this card got buffed. A Slice is like a Strike Plus, just a little bit better than a Strike. And as for a Strike Plus, I think Bane is actually quite good. I'm gonna put it in B tier for one single reason, and that is, it is so significantly good in poison decks. Obviously, we all know that's where you should be using Bane, is when you have poison application. But I think that every single poison deck should have a Bane. Every single poison deck should have a Bane. Now, you're not going to take it in every single deck, but every single poison deck should have a Bane. Because the problem is poison is very scaling, right? Poison is very scaling. So you need a lot of turns to get off damage. Bane is very front-loaded. 20 damage straight up. Boom! And I think a lot of the times when people are building poison decks, they lack that front-loaded damage. And an easy thing to take, it's a fucking common card, is a Bane. So yeah, I think that Bane is a lot better than we think. But when it's bad, it's really bad because it is only one more damage than a strike. So that's why it is not going to get awarded A tier. But I do think that it's very, 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 very good. Blade Dance. Again, this is an older version of it. It is now 3 shivs or 4 shivs upgraded. That's a fucking S tier card, man. That shit is an S tier card. One in the chat if that is probably your most clicked on card on the end of floor 1 on the Silent. If you see a Blade Dance at the end of floor 1, bing bong, it's time for a good run. Because it doesn't even matter if you end up being a shiv deck. It doesn't even matter if the deck ends up working with shivs. It is 1 mana, deal 12 damage. In damage that can be spread out at your liking. Upgraded, 1 mana, 16 damage. We think that Bane is good? This shit needs poison to be activated to be 1 mana, 20 damage. It's free proc on things like Kunai Shuriken, sure, but those are uncommon relics. We're not going to focus on those, but it does work out with a lot of relics, right? Like it does work out with relics like those, or like Ornamental Fan, things like that. There's 1,000 things. There are enemies that it is really bad against. Any enemy that doesn't like when you play things like the Chosen or Time Eater or et cetera. But that doesn't mean just because of those very specific fights.
Less than 3.
Bob, thank you for the 35 months! Anybody that says that this card is weaker because of Time Eater should never be taking powers because of the Awakened one. Time Eater is a fight that you need to solve, and that does not mean that Blade Dance is not good because it does it just because it needs help in those fights. But a lot of times, man, if you get your shivs big, if you get like 2 accuracies and a Phantasmal Killer, you can still use the shivs, man. Like the shivs are still very powerful in a lot of ways. You just have to be very smart and not just play them. Okay? Imagine thinking. Imagine thinking with your brain. Blade Dance is incredibly strong. Almost every single Silent deck, I feel like, will have 1 copy of Blade Dance if you see it anywhere in Act 1. If you see a Blade Dance in Act 1, there's a good chance that you are taking a Blade Dance in Act 1. It does not matter the type of deck that you are trying to run. Very few decks in Act 1 are going to be saying that they do not want a Blade Dance. And that is probably a deck that is boss swapped into like Sneko Eye or some shit. It's just that good. Blur. Gain 5 block, and then your block is not removed at the start of your next turn. I do like Blur. The problem is it feels terrible to take early on in the game. It feels terrible to play early on in the game. Late game, Blur is a run winner for sure. But early on in the game, there is no benefit to playing it. There is no benefit because you are very rarely in the early game blocking enough to then be able to keep a significant amount of block for the next turn. And if you are doing that, you are usually falling behind in the damage race that Act 1 tends to be. So I would say that this is a B tier card because of that. Late into the game, I love taking a Blur. But early on in the game, feels like poop. And it sucks to see. I'd borderline put this in C tier. I'm borderline on putting this shit in C tier, man. Yeah, another reason is because the Silent does start off with so many cards. You start off with 12 cards, 13 on High Ascension on the Silent. Adding a Defend to your deck, that shit's butt. That shit is butt, man. But then later on in the game, it becomes incredible. And I think because it has so much power later in the game, I'm going to leave it in the bottom of B tier. Bouncing Flask time. Bouncing Flask. Chad, where do you think Bouncing Flask goes? It starts with a B, so it's probably going to go in B. I think Bouncing Flask is a C tier card. I love the idea of a Bouncing Flask. It has one of the coolest animations in the game. The fact that you can make the flask bounce higher based on where you throw it is insane. But it's really good with things like Sneko Skull, but let's be honest, we don't be getting Sneko Skull often enough in a run, and there's just better applications of poison in the game. There's just better applications of poison. It just is what it is. The RNG nature of it is also quite difficult. If they're most fights in the later of the game tend to have multiple guys in it, and when there's less there's less targeting, it just gets worse and worse and worse. But it's good. It's good when it's good, bad a lot of the time, and I feel like a lot of the time it is too expensive for us to play. We should be focusing our expensive cards on better options like Corpse Explosion or like Crippling Cloud. There's just better applicators of poison, and you really don't need that many in the deck. And the problem with Bouncing Flask as well is once you play it once, I feel like the second time might still be a really good play, but then the third Bouncing Flask kind of feels like shit, and the fourth Bouncing Flask is even worse, and then the fifth Bouncing Flask is even worse, you know? Because the amount of poison that you have, spending that much mana to just add a little bit more poison when you have like 50 poison on a guy, it just, you know, you're not doing enough. You could just take a deadly poison at that point, right? If you're wanting to continuously reapply poison, you could take a deadly poison, and that's a common card. Next up, we got Bullet Time. Bullet Time, you cannot draw any more cards this turn and reduce the cost of every single card in your hand to 0. This card is very situational to get off, and I feel like is also pretty antithetical to what the Silent wants to do. The Silent wants to continuously play cards over and over and over again. And Bullet Time is saying, we're putting a stop to to how many cards you are able to play. I think that I will put this in the most bottom of C tier. It is barely drawing into a C tier. I'm thinking and I might even want to put it in D tier because of how bad it is early on in the game. It's even worse earlier on in the game, but like I'm putting it in like let's tell you it's the utmost bottom of C tier. The utmost bottom of C tier. It barely is scraping by. It's holding on by the hand that is not shown on screen. Yeah, like I said, the Silent wants to continuously draw and do more things and cycle their deck over and over and over again. And Bullet Time, I feel like, is a band-aid solution to you not having the necessary energy to play cards because of the fact that it stops your hand in its tracks. It stops your turn in its tracks. It doesn't allow you to keep doing the things that you want to do. And the Silent tends to be a character that has a lot of things for a very low cost. It's the way that the Silent thrives. All right, burst. Any surprises? Do I need to explain this one? Or are we good? I don't need to explain why playing skills twice is really good when this island has a lot of really good skills. Cool. Awesome. Next up, calculated gamba. Discard your hand, draw that many cards. I think that's an A tier card. That's a really fucking good card. I think it's even pretty good in the early game, especially because of the turn one being able to draw a bunch. Like I think you can take it at any point in the game. I think that gamba is not S tier for two reasons. I think that it is an upgrade that feels like it needs to happen, but the silent has so many upgrades that you really want to get off, right? Like there's so many upgrades that I feel like are better. It's at like the bottom of your list on upgrades that need to happen. So in that sense, it feels difficult. And sometimes because you oftentimes feel like you need to play it multiple times in a fight, it will take precedence over a potentially better upgrade and then will end up hurting you in the short term, but maybe in the long term you get through it. Also, I don't think that it's incredible in multiples, in crazy amounts of multiples. Obviously, a couple of gambas is really, really good if they're all upgraded, etc., and you have a lot of discard synergies going on. Main problem with them is with calculated gamble, every single time that you play a calculated gamble, you are drawing one less card than you originally had, right? And so if you do not have enough cycle to get it off, you end up chewing your hand down to fewer and fewer and fewer cards to where the gamba gets worse. And it just kind of feels like if you're just gambaing for like one or two, you kind of just shouldn't be having the gamba sometimes. So I think that it needs a lot of things in order to make it good, right? It needs the puzzle pieces in order to then be good. Like acrobatics, you throw that in a deck that's draw 4. And you get to manipulate your hand a little bit. Calculated gamble is only draw 4 if it's drawn at the beginning of your turn, right? Like if you end up using like, if you have like a lot of discard in your deck and you have like prepared and like dagger throw and you dagger throw, that's net 1 draw, right? You after the end of dagger throw, you have 4 cards in your hand. Then you play prepared, now you have 3 cards in your hand. And now you play calculated gamble. So like I feel like it just needs too many puzzle pieces. So it's definitely the tippity top of A tier. Definitely the tippity top of A tier. And I definitely think that almost every deck can use at least one. But I don't think it's just not, it doesn't have that sauce to get to S tier. But that's my opinion. Your opinion can be different, and you can tell me in the comments of how fucking wrong I am and how I'm a piece of shit. Anyways, chat, we're moving on to Caltroppingtons. Caltroppingtons. All right, one in the chat if you like Caltrops. Be honest. Be honest if you like Caltrops. Nah, I hate that shit. I think that before the heart existed, you would have to put Caltrops in F tier. But after the heart exists, I think you can't put Caltrops in F tier. I think you cannot. This has saved so many fights for me in the heart. If the Act 4 elites give it to me, I'm blowing my load. Otherwise, I think that you can take it like late into Act 3 in preparation for the heart if you don't have things settled. But I think it's almost F tier. But just because the heart fight exists, just because that heart fight exists, man. I also take it sometimes against Hexagos. Tight. I agree. Sometimes you need it against Hexagos because the silent really struggles in Act 1 to find damage. I agree. Catalyst. Chat, where do you think Catalyst should go? I'm very curious on chat's opinions because I know exactly where I want to put it. It started off with so many S's, ending with a lot of B. I think Mr. McMonkey needs a sub right now because they described my opinion perfectly. I think it's a C tier card. I think Catalyst is C tier because it is extremely situational. In a lot of poison decks, you don't really even necessarily need it. Like if you're applying enough poison, you don't really even necessarily need it. But also like by the time that you have it, it just feels very win more, but also it feels like something that you're basing your entire deck after. But when it goes off, man. When this shit goes off, it is one of the biggest dopamine hits you'll ever get in the entire game. I put them in the same. I want to put Catalyst and Accuracy right next to each other because I think they give me very similar dopamine hits. They make me feel very godlike, or they make you feel like you do nothing at all. But then as the later on to the game gets, you want more of them. I don't know where I put choke last time. But I've come around the choke recently. I've actually come around the choke recently. Choke is really good in the early game, simply because enemies do not have enough HP to be able to survive the amount of damage that you can do with like a choke plus a neutralize and a single other card. And that's all you need. So many enemies will just die to that. Like a choke plus like a strike is, what is that? 6, 18, 23, 23 plus neutralize is like 31 damage. That's not terrible. And then you get like anything else on top of that early on in the game. I think that it goes absolutely fucking crazy mode. I think the later on the game goes, the worse it gets. I think I put it in C tier for that reason. But dude, oh my God. And I've built so many decks recently around choke. I really like choke. Dude, the C tier is just for the fun cards, man. Why does the Silent have so many fucking fun cards that are so trash? Like, I just want them to work. Slay the Spire 2, please. It's so good, man. Yeah, you get a choke and like a deflect, an escape plan, a fucking blade dance, dude. Oh, it just goes so crazy early. But then the later on in the game gets, enemies get 400, 600, 700, 800 HP. And yeah, choke gets worse. It's not quite as useful because the effect does wear off. I'd be curious of how good a choke would be if it was kind of like a talk to the hand, where it was like 1 mana, put 2 or 3 choke on the enemy and exhaust, but it was permanent for the rest of the fight. Ooh. I wonder how that would work. Like the opposite of talk to the hand. That's why I put it down there. It's just like, I don't know. I want it to work, but it is really good early game. And I highly recommend people take more chokes early game. It'll definitely solve you a lot of fights. It'll definitely solve you things like the Guardian fight and the slime boss. Less so the Hex Ghost. Hex Ghost has a lot of health. But it's really fucking good. Really, 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 really good. All right, ads are over, chat. Cloak and Dagger time. Cloak and Dagger. I think it's a solid B tier card. I think it doesn't do anything that's offensive, but I think it doesn't do anything that's crazy good. It's fine. You're probably going to take one every now and then. Probably going to take one because you have to. It's basically an Iron Wave. Iron Wave Plus. I think you could even argue that this card belongs in C tier. It's pretty good, and then sometimes it's pretty bad. But I think you could argue that it belongs in C tier. But it's not fun enough to belong in C tier, so therefore it can't go in C tier because that's where only the fun cards go. So it has to either go in B and D, and it's definitely not a D tier card, you know? It's definitely not a D tier card. Speaking of fun cards, though, Concentrate. Now, that's a C tier card, but it's one of the most fun fucking C tier cards. Dude, can we even put, can we put Concentrate in B tier, do you think? Do you think you can put a Concentrate in B tier? I think the Concentrate has to go in C tier simply because of Concentrate minus. Concentrate plus is insane. Concentrate minus fucking blows dick and balls. But Concentrate is so good. It's such good energy. In a deck where the Silent just wants to spam 1,000 cards, it works out so incredibly well. It just allows you to do so much. I want it to be playable more often, and it feels like it's such a late game. Like you're locked into this late game necessity. You definitely want it with a spinning top deck, which just makes me think that it's too fun for its own good. Yeah, I gotta put it in C tier, I think. But if you find it upgrade, if you find this card upgraded, that's the problem, is I want it later in the game, but later in the game, I'm locked in on like the cards that I want to get upgraded. But if I find it later in the game and it's upgraded, ooh-wee mama! Yes. Next up, Corpse Explosion. Corpse Explosion is definitely an S tier card. The fact that it doesn't even have to be used in a poison deck is just crazy. The fact that you can just throw it on anyone and then you just burst down the one target and then everybody dies. It is an insanely powerful AoE card. Way better than that all-out attack bullshit. Crippling Cloud. I think that I might get baited by this card. And I think that my opinion might be bad. But I think that this is an A tier card. I think that the fact that it strips so much artifact from everybody in the game, but also deals a significant amount of damage just unupgraded. Like 4 poison is not damage that is nothing. 4 poison is a lot of damage. It's 4 plus 3, that's 7, by the way. Plus 2, that's 9. Plus 1, that's 10. That's 10 damage, man. 10 damage to every single enemy while also applying weak. That's really fucking good. It takes a while. But it's really, really fucking... I think it's good. I think it's good. But if there's one card that I'm like, maybe I'm wrong about, it's that card. But I think it's awesome, and I love it, and I really like it, and I'd like to take it. It's pretty insane if upgraded too. Yeah, 7 poison is crazy upgraded. Really good AoE, and it's an offensive card that also has a little bit of defense to it. And those cards tend to be pretty good when paired in an AoE fashion. To me, it's kind of like an AoE dash. Makes the enemy deal less damage to me, and it does a bunch of damage to the enemies. Right? Does that make sense? How my brain works? Does that make sense? Dagger Spray. I think it's also an A tier card. I think almost every single deck is going to be dropping a Dagger Spray inside of it. Almost every single... C or B tier? What are you guys fucking high? Reptomancer literally exists, chat. You're going to tell me that you don't have a Dagger Spray in almost every single one of your decks, and you're going to tell me that this isn't an S tier or an A tier card. You're taking a Dagger Spray almost every single run. And you're going to say that's not an A tier card? It's a shitty cleave. It's a cleave that scales with strength. Huh? Dagger is A, but all out attack is D. There's no way. That's rage bait. I'm not listening to it. It's literally better than cleave. Yeah, it's quite literally better than cleave. It just is a solid AoE card. It does a lot. The fact that it scales with strength and it is so easy to just get a little bit of strength in the game, right? You can just get it off of many different relics. You can get it from you can make this card cost fucking 0 if you want to and have a wrist blade. There's a billion different ways to make this deal just a little bit more damage. And honestly, having 2 Dagger Sprays in your deck also isn't that bad. Having 3 Dagger Sprays in your deck, kind of pushing it. But sometimes it's pretty good. Next up, we have Dash. I think that Dash, outside of the Silent, I think is pretty mid. I think it's a pretty mid card. But for the Silent, I think that this is... It's honestly a toss-up between the high B and an A for me. Super fucking good early into the game. But the later into the game, the less that you end up playing it. I think every deck takes it. Like almost every deck takes a Dash. This is a hard choice for me. Why is this so hard for me? I gotta go with my heart. Because my heart led me to August, and she's pretty. I think it's so close to being an A tier card, though. I really do. And if you put it in A tier, I got respect for you. Maybe you're stronger than me. Yeah, I think taking a dash in the early to the mid game is almost always correct. And obviously, you know, spending money on it at a shop is a little bit different story. But the fact that it is so efficient for the Silent, I think that it's so weird how it's contrasted with an Iron Wave on the Ironclad. But the Ironclad just has so many different ways to mitigate damage, whereas the Silent lacks them. So the Silent is really looking for that juicy card, whereas the Ironclad is like, nah, I'll just like heal it up, or I'll just block with a feel no pain. But you're different beast for different characters. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Silent is literally the block character. You're not gonna like where I put the card footwork. Next up is Deadly Poison. Deadly Poison, I think, is also B tier. I think Deadly Poison is fine. Good to take 1. Better to take 2. But you're usually only taking a Deadly Poison when you already have other poison stuff going on and you're just trying to accelerate the poison. Or you just need a few more cards to add some poison so that you can get off your Bane and make sure that you draw Bane as you draw poison. But it's meh. Deadly Poison feels monumentally bad to bottom deck. Yeah, but I think it's fine early on in the game, and it's fine in the mid game, and it can help you scale up your poison deck. I don't think it's the best by all means, and if you think that this is a terrible card and you want again tell me that I'm fucking stupid, that's fine. But yeah, I think Deadly Poison's fine. I do feel like I don't take it enough, and I should probably take it more. I think that if you want to call me out on my shit, it's probably for the fact that I don't take enough Deadly Poisons. And maybe I need to take 1 or 2 more. But if you want to throw this bad boy down into C tier, even D tier, by all means do it. But I think it's kind of a B tier card. I think it's fine. Defend. Okay. Deflect. Deflect is a B tier card. That's like the definition of a B tier card. The fact that it does scale off of dexterity The fact that it is just free for you to be able to play with your card spam. The fact that it's really good with something like Burst upgraded. It's incredible. It a lot of times can be inside of like your infinite that you create with like calculated gambles and a bunch of discard. It can just be the block engine that you have. It's fine. Die, die, die. That's an A tier card, man. That shit's just good. Good AoE. Big blast of damage. It exhausts itself because you usually only need to get off that big AoE once or twice in a fight. Not bad. Really energy efficient. Is a rare card though, so I'm not taking it oftentimes at a boss. But if it's kind of like adrenaline, where it's like, if I'm seeing it outside of a boss, fuck yeah, give me it. Give me that shit. Yum, 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 yum. Distraction. Kind of curious of where chat puts distraction. I know exactly where I want to put it, I think. Chat could convince me to move it up a tier, but probably not down a tier. All right, never mind. They're pretty unanimous. Yeah, I also think this shit's F tier, man. This shit kind of butt. This should kind of poop from a butt. I do not take distraction often. Yeah, me neither. Nothing worse, too, than you just get you distraction into a distraction. But it's kind of fun with Dead Branch. That's about it, though. But yeah, there's just too much variety in the cards that you can get from a distraction. It's compared to, you know, obviously to its counterparts, Infernal Blade and White Noise. And Infernal Blade, it usually does damage. Wow. So it does the same thing every time. And on the defect, it's usually going to affect your orbs. Wow. It does the same thing a lot of the time. Distraction is... Sometimes I'm poisoned, and sometimes I duplicate your cards, and sometimes I'm a little bit of block, and sometimes I'm conditional block, and sometimes I'm 0 mana, and sometimes I'm a fucking X cost card that makes it, you know, like, and sometimes I just fucking I'm set up, and sometimes I'm another distraction, and sometimes I'm draw, and sometimes I'm discard. Like, it's like, okay, how the fuck am I supposed to be able to play around that? That just feels terrible. Dodge and roll! Dodge and roll kind of ass, man. That shit is kind of fucking ass. Sometimes it's good. Very rarely it's good. About as often as 1,000 cuts is good, but literally a defend minus feels bad. If it's pre-upgraded, maybe I take it. Probably not. It's harder than you think to get deck scaling on this character. Just because she has a card that gives you deck scaling doesn't mean that deck scaling is that good on this character. Her best card removes your decks. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Doppelganger. It's going in the fun tier. Doppelganger goes in the fun tier. Fucking Christ. Do I fucking love this fucking card, man. I fucking love this fucking card. I love this card. I love this card so much. But it, a lot of the time, just doesn't do enough. And a lot of the time, you're playing it for 0 mana so that you don't have to redraw it. And at least you can do that. At least you can play it for 0 mana so you don't redraw it. But oh, man, I always want that card to work. I do. I really do. Endless Agony. Chat, is this bad enough to go in F tier? Yes or no? Is this a bad enough card to go in F tier? I give it a D minus. I think I'm going to give it an F tier just because I wasted way too many hours in my life trying to make an Endless Agony deck work. It won't work. It doesn't work. You are not going to discard and then make 100 Endless Agonies and, you know, multiply them by not playing them. What the fuck is that, man? You take one early or you're forced to have one early, and yeah, it's some good supplemental damage. It's so bad. Its effect just doesn't exist. Its effect is non-existent, man. Non-existent. What do the other card awards have to be in order to take this garbage? Distraction and a defend. In Venom, I want to put in the fun tier, man. I want to put it in the fun tier. The thing is that I think that a lot of you guys get baited into taking in Venom. And I think that it would be against my due diligence to put it in C tier. But also, I've had a lot of success with it recently. But I think a lot of you guys get baited into taking it because of shivs. One in the chat, if you have a lot of shivs and you're like, I really could take it in Venom now. And then instead of taking the accuracy that increases your shiv damage by 6, you take the Envenom that increases your shiv damage by 1. Do you see how that's bad, man? But it's really fun. And when it works, when you get like a Flechettes deck off, you have a couple of dagger sprays. It works with Bane, by the way. People ask you that all the time because they're too scared to try it themselves. But if you have no poison on an enemy and you have an Envenom in play and you play a Bane, it does do the double hit. Isn't that crazy? But I think I gotta put it in D tier. I think I gotta put it in D tier, man. I think I do. I just think I do. All right, Escape Plan. That's an A tier card, man. That's an A tier card. I think sometimes we get baited into putting it in S tier and we take it a little bit too quickly, but goddamn is Escape Plan good. It allows a lot of infinites to go off. The Silent is very skill heavy. If you weren't playing such a skill heavy character, it wouldn't be as good, but man, do I love Escape Plan. Almost never a reason not to take it. It's fun. It's good. It's solid. Eviscerate. Again, a card that is not in its current form here. It does normally cost 3 energy, and then the more that you discard in your turn, the less the discard costs. I'm very curious to where chat would put this card. I think I overvalue this card hard. I think that this card is like a top of B tier type card. No, it's not. But I want so many decks to work with Eviscerate. I love Eviscerate. It's so fun. If you ever get off Eviscerate with a Wrist Blade, I know it's such a rare combo, but I'm a little sucker and I got my opinions. I love this card. It's so good, man. It's so good. And I think one of the best cards that the Silent has, spoiler alert, is Prepared. I think Prepared is just insane. And so I think this card is easier to get off at 0 cost than you think. Maybe I put it in B tier because I think you should be taking a little bit more. I think you should take just a few more of them. Just a couple more. Expertise. I think Expertise is slightly underrated, usually. I'd put it in like mid C tier. I think that a lot of people think that this card is absolutely but I really don't think that it is. It kind of goes along with like a lot of the other discard cards, how a lot of discard cards are draw. They're hand size negative, right? Prepared, hand size negative. Calculated Gamble, hand size negative. Dagger Throw, hand size negative, right? These cards that so easily get your hand down to a low number makes Expertise later on in the game actually just fucking thrive, man. Finisher. Finisher's a B tier card. It's honestly close to C tier, but I think it's good enough early on in the game. And then later in the game can just be really, really solid and can be built around, and you can have an entire deck around it. And it's really good in the early game. Just like Strike, Finisher is a lot of damage. Like it just straight up is. Let alone with Strike, Neutralize, one single Blade Dance, etc. It can be a really good solution in a lot of portions of the game. It can be a good solution to the birds with its multi-hits. I don't think that you should be taking more than one finisher. I think the more finishers you have, the worse your deck is. But I think there's a lot of worlds where finisher is a lot better than I think people think that it is, just because of how prevalent shivs are and how prevalent spamming a lot of low-cost attacks are for the Silent. But then we get to Flechettes. I think that's an A-tier card. I think Flechettes is a goated attack. This character floods their deck with skills. Floods their deck with skills. And you're not thinking about taking a Flechettes, man? This shit can be such good damage. It can be a mid-game solution. It can be a late-game solution. This shit could be 1 mana 60 damage. Not really, it's actually... Technically, it could be 1 mana 54 damage, but with strength. But it's solid. Amazing. It's really fucking good. And I highly recommend that if you don't take a Flechettes every now and then, take a Flechettes. You will be surprised at how good this card does. Next up, Flying Knee. I think Flying Knee is like the #1 card that we take on like floor 1 or 2. And we're just kind of like, I just wish I saw a Dagger Throw or a Dagger Spray or just like, it's just like I just wish that like it's good and we take it and we deal with it, but like it's the biggest disappointment of a card, in my opinion. It's the biggest disappointment. It's just fine. It's just a strike plus. All right, chat. Should I rate footwork or should I skip over it for now? Rate the feet. Rate your feet. Show your feet. Just put it in S tier. I think it's at the bottom of B tier. I think that this is the most bait card that the Silent has in her kit. I want to put it in C tier just to make less people take it. I think that you can take 1 footwork, maybe 2. But when you're thinking about getting more and more footworks, I just need you to think, all right? I'm not saying that the 3rd or 4th footwork is not good, but I need you to just think more about how many block cards do I have? What is my method for being able to cycle to the footworks and also being able to get off block on the turns that I draw the footworks? I think that most decks don't even need 1 footwork. Stop trying to make it work. Figure out alternative block sources. Just because a card says gain block and this card says gain more block when you gain block doesn't mean that it's good. Glass Knife, that goes in A tier. That shit's really good. How's my singing? But yeah, I don't think I need to say much about Glass Knife. That's a solid fucking card. The Silent does have just a load of cards that you just take when you just need some more damage. The thing with Glass Knife is, though, I do think that you can take this card at boss fights a lot because you can play very defensive, or you can have, like, Scaling Poison that can defeat all of Act 1, right? If you have, like, Noxious Fumes and a Bane and, like, a Deadly Poison, Act 1 can be pretty soft. But then you get into Act 2 and you're like, damn, I need some, like, rushing damage. And a Glass Knife Plus is so fucking good to do that. So I think Glass Knife's just really good. Glass Knife is like S tier. It's so good. No, it's not. Next up, Grand Finale. Grand Finale's got to go D tier, man. I love Grand Finale, though. This is probably one of my favorite cards in the entire fucking game. I love this card so goddamn much. It belongs in its own tier because it's so bad, but it's so goddamn fun. But it's not good enough to be in the C tier. I want it, man. And I think that everybody has not truly lived in Slay the Spire until you have gotten off and won with a Grand Finale deck. Not just gotten off Grand Finale once or twice. I'm talking that you have based your deck around Grand Finale and you have won with Grand Finale. That shit is so goddamn fun. You will not regret it. I promise you. All right, next up, Heel Hook. Deal 5 damage if the enemy is weakened. Gain 1 energy and draw a card. This character loves to spam cards. So you'd think that a card that is, like, essentially, like, nothing would be pretty fine. But that's exactly what it is. It's fucking nothing, man. It's nothing. It doesn't fucking do anything. It doesn't progress your ability to win the run. It just does nothing. It's just neutral. It literally just could not exist, and you just wouldn't play a card, and you wouldn't have fucking tickled the enemy for fucking nothing. It's poop from a butt, man. But it's like one of those poops that, like, feels moderately good and coils in the toilet, and maybe you take a picture and send to your friend. Infinite Blades going right next to it. Fuck this fucking power, man. Fuck this stupid fucking power. This shit sucks butt. And I hate cards. I hate cards that you don't want to get upgraded. I hate cards that when you go to an event that says upgrade random cards that you brace, hoping that it's not your Infinite Blades because it makes your deck significantly worse. How are you putting Infinite Blades and Caltrops on the same level? Question mark, question mark, question mark. This is on average dealing 4 damage a turn if it's upgraded or unupgraded to the enemy, because most enemies in the game aren't multi-attacking. This, on average, is dealing 4 damage a turn. Leg Sweep! That's an A tier card, man. I love me a leg sweep. I love 2 leg sweeps in my deck a lot of the time. Malaise. Malaise also an A tier. That's just good, man. I think Malaise is a little bit more situational, but I think even if you just have an upgraded Malaise and you get it off for 0 energy, it's really solid. Like, -1 strength for 0 energy is really, or -1 strength for 0 energy is really good. That's really fucking good. -1 strength against an enemy is overrated, especially when it comes with the Turn of Weakening. And if you can get it off with a little bit more, it's really solid. I think building a deck around it and trying to utilize it when you have a large amount of energy can be good into some fights, you know, Stabby Book, things like that. But if we're going to value something like Disarm really highly on the Ironclad, this does effectively that. For 1 mana, it gets rid of 2 strength when it's upgraded. It gets rid of 2 strength, and then it also applies weakening. So that's a lot less damage that the enemy is doing. Masterful Stabbington. I think that everybody should be taking this card probably more than they already are. I think that this card is really good early on in the game, but then the later into the game that you go, obviously enemies are hitting you for chip damage, and it becomes less and less worth it for you to play the damage at a higher cost of energy, and then it just becomes a curse throughout your deck. So I think for that reason, it does sit in C tier. It does. It does sit in C tier, but overall, it's actually really solid, and I think more people should be taking this early because it just blasts through early fights in Act 1 and Act 2, blasts through a lot of elite fights. Even in Act 2, you think of the Slavers fight, you think of the Gremlin Leader fight. A lot of those turn 1s on the Slavers fight can deal a lot of damage. The Slavers often, or the Gremlin Leader fight, a lot of times you're not getting attacked on every turn, so you have a lot of turns to get this thing off. It's really, really good. It's really, really good. Neutralize is a B tier card. Could potentially even... It's borderline to me. If I could put a card right here, I think I would. This would be like the one time. But I think it's a high B tier card. No, it's an A tier card. It's an A tier card. What am I even thinking? It's an A tier card. The worst part about it is you can't get another one of it. But you don't really want a whole lot more than one. but the fact that you do have an early source of weakening for absolutely free is really solid. It adds on a lot of damage early on in the game, just a little bit of chip damage over time, and it is really good later in the game to, once again, apply weakening, but also to strip artifacts so that you can get off your more powerful cards and your poison and things like that. It's literally just to go for the eyes, but doesn't need conditions. It's way fucking better. It's really, really good. All right. Nightmare. Curious where chat would put Nightmare. There's a lot of cards on the Silent that I think that people get baited by. And I think that Nightmare is like up there in a slot that isn't even fucking calculable. This card is like either I'm using it to get off something fucking broken, or I end up never playing it, and then it probably causes me my death. And so for that, I think it's exactly middle of the road. Because it either makes you go fucking nuclear mode, or it makes it go fucking poo-poo pee-pee butt mode from a butt. It is really fucking good, or it's really fucking bad. There's no in between of this card. It's really fucking good, or it's really fucking bad. All right, next up, Noxious Fumes. That's an S tier card. I don't even think we need to talk about it. I don't think we need to fucking talk about that. This card says 1 mana, deal infinite damage. You got to do nothing else. I think most decks can take a Noxious Fume. Most, like almost every single deck can take 1 Noxious Fumes. I do think that S you can consider too high for it, simply because you don't usually want more than 1 Noxious Fumes. But I think for the consistent artifact stripping, for the consistent damage application, the fact that it will solve your early game, it will solve early boss fights, I think it's way too fucking good. Does require an upgrade, though, I think, in order to kill bosses, usually. Next up, Outmaneuver. I fucking hate this card. I genuinely fucking hate this card. I genuinely, absolutely hate this card. I think there are times where this card works. There's every single card in this game has a place in the Spire. You always got to remember that. But fucking hell, when I transform into an Outmaneuver, am I just... Give me a better card, please, and thank you. Next up, Phantasmal Killer. Again, this is buffed from the 5-6 years ago when this tier list was originally made. This is 1 mana or 0 mana, and I think that's A tier. I think it's borderline S, but it's really fucking good. Only because there are a lot of times where you're against an enemy that has a large amount of shit that they're adding to your deck, or they hurt you on a specific turn, or like the red slaver that prevents you from attacking, and then you get it on the wrong turn, or it's the nemesis, and you get it on the turn that they're not intangible, so then if you use it, you're going to be double damage on the turn that you are intangible. So it does feel bad in so many fights that I think that it's not the best, but it can carry so many a run. So many a run. Piercing Wail is an S tier card. Do I need to explain that? Almost every single run, you're taking at least 2 copies of this if you see it. Nope. All right. One of the most obvious S tier cards. That is AoE block, motherfucker. That also goes through multi-attacks. That's insane. The power behind that card is crazy. And also has a cool animation. Any card with a cool animation is cool with me. Next up, Poison Stab. Poison Stab is Shmeep Shmop Meh. It's just a Shmeep Shmop Meh card. Meh. Speaking of treating women weird, let's talk about the card Predator. I think that this is a borderline B to A tier card. I think this card's really, really solid. I think it's good early in the game. I put it kind of in the same place as Daesh, so I think I'll probably put it in B tier. I think that you can take one in almost every single deck, but if you want to put this card in A tier, I think that's also perfectly fine. I think it's perfectly fine to do. Prepared. I genuinely think the Prepared is an S tier card. 0 mana, draw 2. And then this character has so much discard synergies. I think that it is just impossible not to put this in S tier. Crazy amount of cycle on this card. Yes, it is drawn, or it is card or hand size negative. It does kind of demand an upgrade, but I think early on it can trigger a lot of discard synergies that I think that it is just... I think I underrated this card before. I think this card is so goddamn good. Next up, Quick Slash. That's an F tier card. That card sucks butt. I hate this fucking card. Why does this card stupid fucking exist? I honestly think that the devs just got a little bit lazy and they just made this card. And I think that they should just have like made a different card that synergizes with the Silent, because this shit is just annoying. It is genuinely annoying. The fact that this guy's right here. Dagger Throw, an A tier card, because it, one, does more damage, but not even that. It's because of the discard. It's because this exists. It's because the discard version exists. And every single time that I'm forced to take a quick slash, you always want a dagger throw instead. There was never a time that you're like, I would rather have a quick slash than a dagger throw. Next up is Reflex. And I think that we should do Reflex at the same time that we do Tactician. I think we should talk about them together. It's the one time that I'm going to go out of the alphabetical order here. Because I think that they're going to go next to each other. I think that they are oftentimes found inside of the same deck. You know, if you want one, you usually want the other. The problem is if you don't want them, like if you are not going for a discard synergistic deck, they're a blight to see, and even more of a blight to get into your deck via transforms or randomness or something like that, matching game, etc., etc. And so for that reason, I think I have to put them both in C tier. Because of the fact that they can be so unbelievably bad. But I think that they're so fucking good that if you want to put them up in B tier or even A tier, I think A tier is just a stretch. But if you wanted to put them up in B tier, I think that you could. But for me, just because of the fact that so many runs you don't want them, but I think that they are insanely good when they work. Next up, Riddle with Holes. I think it's straight up a fucking F tier card. This shit is just, it's just a heavy blade. But I'm on a character that doesn't scale with strength. Like, there's not a lot of strength cards for this character. There's not a lot of ways to make this go crazy hard. It can be insane in 1 in 1,000 runs, which is why I think F tier exists. I think that's what F tier is for. Yeah, I think that's what F tier is for. And I think alongside that is where you're probably going to put setup. I think setup is the exact same. 1 in 1,000 runs, I love a setup. But most of the time, that shit kind of sucks. It kind of fucking sucks. Sometimes, it's pretty good. But a lot of the times, kind of sucks. Skewer! Skewer is an 8 tier card. Skewer is definitely a way early in the game in order to be able to deal a significant amount of damage. And it can also be a late game solution in order to be able to win the end game boss fights. And I think it's fine. I think if you wanted to put it in B tier because of the fact that it's not always going to be useful and you're not going to take it in every single deck, I think that's perfectly fine. But just because of how many times I have taken it early on in the game in order to be a way to deal with Slime Boss or with the Guardian or with the early elites and even Act 2 elites, I think it's just really good. You ask me, Skewer is a stinky fart. Oh, okay. Next up, Slice. Slice is a C tier card. Slice is okay. It's fine. You can take it in a lot of decks. But a lot of times it just doesn't achieve you a lot, and it can feel kind of bad. Sneaky Strike is a card that, when I originally did the tier list, I rated a little bit poorly. And I apologized when I did my tier list updating. And I think that this card goes right next to Eviscerate in B tier. I think that they're pretty much on par with each other. I think it's good. And I think a lot of the times you can take it early on in the game, again, with just a single prepared or a dagger throw, along with your survivor. I think it's fine. Storm Shield belongs in D tier because it's not really all that good. But when it is good, it's really, really fun. And it's in that fun category. And I think I would like to put it in C tier as well. But this is kind of like a Blade Dance Plus at a time when it's a rare card versus a common card. Okay, Strike is an F. We don't like that. Sucker Punch is B because it's just really, really good. And we really, really like it. Survivor is like a C tier card. Terror probably goes up in like A or even S tier. But I'd probably put it in A just because you're never really using 99 vulnerable. Tools of the Trade, I probably would put... Okay, this one I got to slow down for because I think this opinion matters. Tools of the Trade is an interesting card. It does enable your... It does enable your discard engine and your discard synergies very effectively. Main problem with it, and this is something that I've explained a number of times, is the draw neutrality of it. So if you draw it the first turn, draw it on turn 1, and then you play it, you draw 6 cards on your next turn. That extra card that you drew on the second turn would have just been the card that you already would have drawn if you didn't have the Tools of the Trade in your deck. Right? Because every card would have just been moved up 1 slot, so you would have drawn 5 and 5. And then on the following turn, you finally draw 1 more. But you do get the discard synergies that come along with it, so I'll put it in B tier because of that. I think it's a B tier card. Unload, I also think, is honestly B or C tier I'm going to put it in C tier, I think, because of the fact that later on in the game, it's just not as good. But early on in the game, it is so fucking insanely good at dealing damage. The problem is you have to find it early in the game, and you're never taking it from a card reward in a boss fight. Well-Laid Plans is an S tier card. Wraith Form is an S tier card. Any questions? Yes, it will be on the test. Why is Wraith Form good? Sure, that's a really good question. So even just at its base form, without it being upgraded is far better, just for the same reasons. If I play Wraith Form this turn, right? That solves my turn, right? We can say that it solves the turn. But the problem is you usually don't have anything you could do with the Wraith Form on that turn. But next turn, you also have it solved because you're still intangible on the following turn. So incredible. Really, really strong. So you focus it all on damage. And then the turn after that, you're still technically can just kill the enemy, right? So you have the turn that you play Wraith Form, plus the next turn, plus the turn after that to kill the guy, or get another Wraith Form off, or stall for one turn, which you can often do. If you have the extra intangible, it adds one more turn. But you have to remember that the turn that the enemy starts dealing damage back to you, you can kill them on that turn, and that's still technically a turn that you get to go all out and deal damage. And usually, hallway fights only last for about 4 to 5 turns, 6 turns in the early to mid game, right? They don't last much longer than that. So with Wraith Form, if you play a Wraith Form, you then can then focus your entire turns on dealing damage and not having to block anything, which then can accelerate that 4 to 5 turns, 6 turns down to just those 2 turns that you need. And then as you get in later into the game, it just gets more powerful as more enemies are dealing more damage. And then if you time it right with enemies doing specific attacks, obviously it gets way better in there. So
don't listen to this faker. My fiance August, who I love and trust, said Wraith Form is bad because it makes block useless. I'm a man who believes his partner.
He's an arsonist on a noble quest to escape the wrath of the IRS. He's got conflicting positions in the endless fight for queer folks